it's so important in an industry where there's so much rejection. To be able to give yourself the yes is rad. And it gives, I think it gives actors, something to focus on, so that we're not just waiting for the phone to ring, or we're not getting, totally psycho about one audition, and not, we can pour our energy into something that's ours, I think, when you start creating for yourself.
If you're a trained actor challenged by an increasingly fragmented industry, then this podcast is for you. The Hollywood Actor Podcast is an anthology made up of the stories of actors building their bodies of work by redefining themselves, reframing their goals, and reevaluating their opportunities. No matter where we are in our careers, we're always looking to be inspired and to share ourselves across our community. This podcast will offer that opportunity to guests and listeners alike, as we all discover what it means to be a working, professional, successful actor. This is Jamie Young, and you're listening to the Hollywood Actor Podcast. Today's guest is Katelyn Gault. Katelyn is an actor from Orange County, California, with a BFA from Chapman University in theater performance and additional training through Leslie Kahn and Company and Bramon Garcia Braun Studio in Los Angeles. Katelyn and I first met while performing on stage together in North Hollywood. Her credits include voicing characters for the Netflix anime series Aggretsuko and Dragon Pilot, and the upcoming feature film One Remains, a horror film set for theatrical release spring 2019. You can find Katelyn at her website, KatelynGault.com, on IMDb, and follow her on Twitter at Katelyn_Gault. Now let's talk with Hollywood actor Katelyn Gault. Where did you get most of your training, the foundations of your training from?
Well, that's always tricky, right? Because I feel like as a lot of people anyway, as kids and as teenagers, you kind of have an inkling that you might want to be an actor, and sometimes you don't even really. I know I didn't totally know why. I think I just I would watch TV with my mom, and honestly, I'd watch a lot of soap operas. She really liked Days of Our Lives. But I remember thinking at a really young age, I think I want to do what they're doing on the TV. I was like, I think I know how to do that, innately. And then and I grew up in Orange County, by the way, in California, Seal Beach area. And then once I got into high school, but none of my family is involved in the arts at all. So I wasn't raised in an artsy family at all. My mom's a nurse, or was. So when I got into high school, I started by, I wanted to take singing classes. And so I did voice lessons for a long time. And so I really started by singing. And then in high school, did basically Glee was my high school. The show Glee. And so I did a lot of musical theater type performing before I ever really focused in on acting. And I really don't do musical theater now. So it's interesting that was kind of my basis was classical vocal training, really. Yeah, I used to sing French and Italian arias and shit like that, weird. But I had a really bad experience in high school where I had my choir teacher in high school tell me that I wasn't very good at singing. And that kind of damaged my confidence in it.
In high school?
Yeah, in high school. I know, right? Wow. Well, I had kind of asked for some feedback, and I think she was harsher than I was ready for. And so it kind of just like, instead of being inspiring, it was debilitating.
Mm.
Um, and so I was like, well, I don't want to do that anymore. I have since started taking voice lessons again to start singing again, but this is like almost 15 years later now. But um, so so that happened, and then I kind of was like, well, I'm not going to do music, I'm not going to do music anymore. I just want to act. And I had one of my best friends, her father was uh, the head of the PR department for South Coast Repertory, which is a big theater in Orange County. And so we started going to see plays there. And I saw a bunch of amazing plays there when I was, really young. I think like the defining one for me was I saw Hamish Linklater play Hamlet when I was 16. And I was like, oh, and he was just amazing, just incandescent,
Yeah.
just beautiful, beautiful performance. And I remember thinking like, oh, I wish I could do that. Like, I wish I could get up there and do that. And, uh, and so then I did drama in high school and stuff. And then, um, funny enough, this is leading to my training, I swear. But actually, this is part of it because I remember, I had somebody told me, I think her father told me, because he was also, he was a theater guy. And even though he was doing the PR, like he had been around actors for his entire life. And he was like, a lot of the veterans here say there's no better teacher than watching people do it, you know,
Yeah.
and gleaning from that. And so I think early on I was like, oh, I can see what they're doing. And I really wanted to do it, even though I was scared. Um, and so scared, in fact, that post high school, I was too scared to audition for any theater schools. I didn't do it because I thought I just wasn't like valid. Like I was like, no, I can't. I'm not a real actor. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm going to be going up against all these kids who have gone to like, art schools, and I just got scared and didn't do it. So I got into Chapman University in Orange County as well. Um, and I went in as an undeclared major and about and I was it wasn't like off the table. I still was thinking about acting and doing it, but I also was interested in psychology, which makes a whole lot of sense. Um, as actors, I think being interested in psychology is just kind of like part of the job. Um, and I took some psych classes, and after about 2 months, I decided that I would audition to start my major my sophomore year, and I was terrified. And I went back to my same friend who had taken me to all the plays in high school, and she was doing theater at Fullerton, at Cal State Fullerton down the road. And I went to her and I said, I don't know how to do this. What monologues do I pick? I don't know how to do what am I doing? And so she helped me pick some monologues, and I auditioned for the theater program at Chapman, and I got in. Um, and then spent the next 3 years, finishing my major, and eventually after a year because Chapman does a BFA, a BA, and a BFA program, and to get into the BFA program, you have to audition again, because it's kind of like this weird elite thing. And most kids do like 2 years, right? They do their freshman year and their sophomore year, and then they audition for the BFA. Well, I had to cram everything into 1 year and then audition for the BFA, which I did. And I ended up getting into it over kids who had been there for 2 years already. And that created kind of this like weird stir. And I wasn't used to this. Like, I was like, what? What? I was like, I got in. What the hell? Um, and so I think that kind of was like the start of building, I guess, my confidence a bit. Because I went, oh, somebody must have seen something in me, right? Um,
Yeah.
and which is huge, as you know, in acting, because it's so
Yeah, the
easy
big
to
resounding
not,
note of encouragement for the first
yeah,
time.
right. And I was so scared. I was always so scared, and not able to see how powerful I could be if I just owned it, right? Um, And and so yeah, I would say the bulk of my theater training anyway came from Chapman. A little bit of film training came from Chapman, but film training mostly was from like being on set and kind of doing it as things came up. But yeah, yeah, I would say the foundations, my foundations.
What kind of techniques do they um, do do they
Whew.
operate with at Chapman? Do they have different teachers from different methods, different disciplines, different mediums?
Yeah, yeah, they do. I mean, I would say, oh God, I just realized that it's been 10 years uh, since I graduated from Chapman. That's so I'm like, let me go back and think about what what classes I actually took. So like within like a voice and movement class, we would go through a lot of different techniques, right? So uh, to name a few that that we touched on, I mean, Meisner was one. You know, we looked at Stanislavski, obviously. Uta Hagen, I remember reading a little bit. And Bogart for movement, the viewpoints specifically. Um, Obviously, there was a Shakespeare class. There was very much dedicated to studying Shakespeare. Ooh, what else? We actually, my movement teacher knew part of, I think, Anne Bogart, but Tadashi Suzuki movement was something, his movement we studied, which was really cool. Um, Very interesting.
So
Um,
multidisciplinary.
oh yeah, totally, totally.
Okay.
And then obviously like text analysis, scene study, that kind of stuff too. But of the teachers, those are kind of the ones I remember the most. Yeah, or the different, I guess, the
But
different
no
schools
teacher
of
would
teaching.
hold up a text as a Bible. They would just say, "These are my experiences. These are what I've gleaned. These are some tools that
Yeah,
might particularly resonate with you."
yeah, exactly. There was never a this is the way you do it. I mean, there was only, I think what Chapman professors tried to do was really introduce everything, uh, introduce little slices of a bunch of different disciplines and go, keep what you want and discard what you don't like. Basically, whatever is going to help unlock you. Because I remember one professor saying, um, Michael Nearing was his name, said, we're, as actors, we always start in a state of like confusion and being kind of locked, right? We don't really know what we're going to do yet. And so all of these different methods, um, the method too, we looked at that obviously because that's a thing. But all of these different disciplines are all there. All these tools are there to help unlock the script or the character, or they're there to help you figure out basically what the fuck you're doing. Um,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, okay, I get it. So it's not that I have to do all of this stuff every single time. It's that I have to do what's going to help me create this character or craft this moment, or so I think it was like a constant experimentation with that. Yeah.
And that was very clear
So
going into the classes that that's what you'd be picking up on, and that's the way that you guys would be working.
God, it's been a long time, but
Yeah. Well, for
as far
example, like did you guys have
yeah.
in your final year a lot of performances that were kind of in-house, so you did get to start using your techniques in these in full-length plays and seeing what did
Oh
work for you and
yeah.
what didn't?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I got cast in a lot of the we would do main stage productions. We there were opportunities to perform all year long, and you could audition for them. And I remember being cast basically every semester in one of the main stages that was happening, at all times. So I was lucky in that because not everybody got that, um, and uh, and so I was able to really utilize that time to try out what I had been learning in classes and experiment with that. So yeah, yeah. But not everybody had that experience at Chapman. There were a lot of people that were very frustrated because they didn't get cast. And so they were like, well, how the hell am I supposed to be an actor if I'm not getting to perform, And I'd be like, I'm sorry, you know.
Yeah, puts you in a
So
difficult position.
yeah,
But
yep.
for your sake, it was another vote in favor of your talent, your persistence.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I trust me, I still wasn't like uber confident, but it gave me a sense of like, oh, maybe I'm good at this. maybe maybe I should try to do this. Um, you know.
Did you move to LA
But
right after Chapman?
yeah, I remember getting cast in. I had auditioned for a company called Shakespeare by the Sea, to do a couple of plays in rep, traveling around where we would do Shakespeare, these two plays. It was, what was it? As You Like It and Love's Labor's Lost, in like parks around LA and Orange County. They're based out of San Pedro. And I got cast in that before I even graduated. So that was cool. Um, and did that over the summer. And I had moved back in with my mom for a little bit, because college was over, and I moved back home because it was like a half an hour away. And then quickly after doing Shakespeare by the Sea, I met my friend Katie, who then who is now one of the members of Courage Theater Company, which I'm a member of. It all comes full circle, I swear. And we decided to move in together, and so we rented a place in West Hollywood, um, like La Brea and Sunset, so like right in the thick of it, right in the crazy town. Um, and yeah, I moved up there and started trying to figure it out, and had a whole lot of difficulty because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, because Chapman did not prepare me for anything that had to do with LA, not the business side of it. Um, I legit didn't know what to do. So I did like theater, and, tried to I had jobs, I had like 3 jobs, and it got really, really hard. Um, and I wasn't actually doing anything I wanted to be doing. I just was like kind of flailing and trying to figure it out and talking to people, and you know kind of freaking out, having a nice little crisis right after college, which I think is very normal now that I think about it. In retrospect, I'm like, oh
It's
yeah, I
almost
was
healthy.
normal. Yeah, I was normal, but at the time I'm like, what am I doing,
Yeah.
crying and all that.
No, everybody has their own unique growing pains coming out of drama school, coming out of university, really, and making their forays into the world, into whatever industry and whatever particular business brings them in, slowly into the industry. If it's an internship at a company, or yeah, being a stage manager on an off Broadway play.
I think it's however you can get involved,
Mm.
you kind of try to do. Um,
Because you're at least
and yeah,
flailing, right? I mean, you're not just paralyzed in your little
yeah,
studio in Hollywood.
yeah, no, I was trying, I was trying to figure out how to do it. I didn't know. Um, and then a friend introduced me to uh, Dallas Travers. She literally coaches actors on how to run marketing and business for yourself. And so then I was like, oh, I need, and this didn't happen immediately. This was like a year and a half, maybe 2 years after I graduated. I was like, oh, I need to like market myself to like I was so I seriously had no clue what to do with myself. I was like, I need to like meet casting directors. Duh, of course I do. I need to meet I need to start like networking. Like, oh, that's what that means. And so I kind of launched into that. Um, Meanwhile, LA was way too hard financially, and I was not making enough money to sustain life up there. So I moved back in with my mom. I moved back down to Orange County. Um, and I was actually working at Medieval Times as the princess in
No,
Buena Park. Yeah.
I can
Oh yeah.
picture that.
Yeah. I
But
did
still, you
that.
can commute, right? Having a home
Yes.
base within the metro
Yes.
area.
Right. Well, my sister, I remember sitting in my apartment in West Hollywood I was so depressed because I was like, I don't know how people do this. Like I'm so, I was 21. I wasn't even 22 when I graduated. I was young. Um, and I was just going, I don't like, I legit don't know how to do this. Like, I don't know how to pay for my own, and my mom was still helping me financially and I felt guilty. And I was like, this sucks. Like, this is really shitty. And I remember talking to my sister's like 10 years older than me. So she's been a mentor and, like kind of like a second mom for most of my life. And um, she said, Kay, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, you sound horrible. You sound so stressed out. Why don't you just move back in with mom? And I was like, God, that sucks. She's like, no, it doesn't. She like was the first one to like give me a reality check and was like, you don't need to feel bad about that. You've graduated in one of the worst times in history for like the job market, first of all. It was 2009. And she's like, and it's not easy to live in Los Angeles. So like, why do you feel bad? She's like, she has a way of just being very blunt and real and honest about things, and was like, yeah, half your friends that are living in LA now are being subsidized by their parents. So you you need to not feel bad that you want to move back, and she's like, and they don't, most of them are from out of state, so they don't have the option to go live with their parents. So why don't you just move back for a little while and figure it out? And then when you're ready, you can move back out. And I was like, okay. So I kind of, like it was like an ego, uh, a blow to my ego a little bit, but I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do it. And I moved back down there, um, and worked at Medieval Times and would try to go and went up to LA as much as I could, um, to do workshops and, try to start making connections and getting
Did you
involved
have
in
an agent at the
stuff.
time?
No, I don't think so. I think maybe for a second I had a manager. God, I don't really remember if he wasn't doing jack shit for me, honestly. Like nothing. So, yeah, oh no, agents were. And the thing is, I had gotten meetings with a few pretty reputable agents from my one of my professors at Chapman. Um, and so I had gone on some agent meetings right out of college. And, of course, I got you're 21 and blonde and you have no experience. So you're green and no. It didn't matter, if I was a good actor. That was one of the first blows, was like, oh, this industry doesn't care if you're really good in the beginning, you know,
The favor
or at
was
least,
just to see you and then tell you that.
yes. Yeah, basically.
You came back to Los Angeles
Eventually. So I stayed in Orange
eventually?
County. Oh yeah. Oh, I kind of had a late, like, crazy phase in life. You're gonna you're gonna get all of the info, Jamie. Just get ready. And anybody who's listening. Um, I so yeah, I was living in Orange County, and I was technically living with my mom, but I had a lot of relationships at that time. So I was staying with boyfriends and people and like kind of living a crazy life for a little bit there, like crashing everywhere and um, partying a lot. Um, because, like Medieval Times was like, and of course now I've written about this, but um, in the form of a series, which is exciting. But Medieval Times was like Medieval Times High School. It was like just a bunch of young people um, working there, and after work was just like parties a lot, and going crazy and kind of like very tumultuous. Honestly, I got into some really not awesome relationships with people, which is all part of growing. Like I don't regret a lot of them. I learned a lot. Um,
Yeah, and their life
but yeah,
experiences, right?
sure, absolutely. Um, but about 2.5 years, 3 years into that, I was like, I hit another like kind of depression where I had a moment where I was like, I'm not really doing anything I wanted to be doing. I'm still, I was still trying in LA and trying to go up and do all the things, but I just felt like I wasn't making any progress. And I kind of wanted to give up, honestly. And I did, actually. which is so weird. It feels like forever ago, and it wasn't that long ago. But um, my aunt, I talked to my aunt Susie, who was a VP of Xerox at the time, and so she was managing part of her territory. Her sales territory was in London, um, and she liked to go to Paris a lot. She just was like a jet setter. And when I had just turned 25, and I had there was a relationship I was developing in LA with a producer, not a romantic relationship, like a business relationship, and it had fallen through for a lot of different stupid personal reasons with things I couldn't control. Sorry to be vague, but
No. Yep.
it's just and I was really, really disheartened by it because he was somebody that we were going to like produce projects together. And so I was like, oh my God, something's finally happening. And it fell apart. And I went, fuck this. I'm over this. I don't want to do this anymore. This is like heartache after heartache. I don't feel fulfilled anymore. I just, I want to get out, but I don't know what else to do. And so back to my Aunt Susie, I was telling her all of this on the phone, and she said, hey, it was October of 2012. She said, hey, it's your birthday this month. Why don't we go to Paris? And I was like, okay. She's like, no, I'm serious. I'm going to take you to Paris for like 4 days. I have to go to work in London. And so we're just going to pop over to Paris and just have a good time. And, I had family friends who, through my Aunt Susie, who lived in Paris, and their daughter, Jasmine, and I had become good friends because Jasmine had come out to California the year prior. And Jasmine, who was essentially my age, maybe a couple of years younger, lived in France. And so I called her and I said, hey, I'm going to be in Paris. Get your ass over to Paris. And so she came and stayed with us. And because that's how I roll. And we went and, had a lot of fun. And my aunt, we were at dinner one night and she said, hey, wouldn't it be fun, Katelyn, if you came and lived in Europe for a little while? And I was like, yeah, it'd be cool. How am I going to do that? And Jasmine was like, well, I just got a job in England on the Isle of Wight, and you could come and stay with me, and we could just rent a flat together, and you could live. And at the time, I had actually gotten a job working remotely for a friend of mine for his website company. And so I was doing like basically admin work, but like from home. And I had done this for him for a couple years now. Yeah. So this happened like during my crazy phase and medieval time phase. Anyway. And I went, oh my God, I wonder if I could just still work remotely, but go live in England. And so I went to my friend who was my boss and I said, hey, you never see me anyway. Do you mind if I do this from England? And he was like, nope, go for it. So I went in 2013. About 3 months after that trip to Paris, meeting up with Jasmine, I went and just completely blind by myself.
Yeah.
Flew to Heathrow, took a bus and a train and all sorts of things and a ferry over to the Isle of Wight, which is a little island off the coast of Portsmouth and Southampton. It's in a Beatles song. That's about as much as it's famous for. And the music festival that takes place there anyway. And I went and I lived on the Isle of Wight for 6 months and used it as my home base with Jasmine. We rented a flat in a little town called Ventnor. And I traveled to Italy and France, and I just got away for 6 months. I just left and went to just go explore. And it was the best of times and the worst of times. It was lonely and horrible and dreary. And I was like, why the fuck do people live in England? And then it was also inspiring and amazing. And I saw beautiful things. And I had friends who were in Rome at the time studying. And so I went to stay with them. And, I just had all of these really awesome experiences. And, I didn't do anything with acting, as funny as that is. I was so close to London and never saw a play during the entire time I was there because I was just so vehemently over it, I guess. But by the end of it, I was hanging out with so many creative people, a lot of musicians actually, tons of musicians on the Isle of Wight. And so, and I would go to their performances, and I remember feeling really, I was homesick pretty much the whole time. I think that just happens. But, or at least it did with me. I was missing a lot of people, but, um, I realized there, uh, the biggest takeaway was that there are parts of this world that don't give a fuck what's happening in Los Angeles or Hollywood or New York, or they don't care, who's in what film right now. They just don't care about it. It was, I had been so immersed in the game, right? In the game of trying to meet people in Los Angeles and trying to get projects and, doing all of this Hollywood bullshit, that I had lost sight of the fact that, like, there are places where people have different experiences, and they live, and there are things that are more important than, the next project. And so for me, that almost made it so much less consequential, if that makes sense. I was like, oh, wait, I could go and I can go back there and I can do what I want to do and get involved with what I want to get involved with. I don't need to do this crazy rat race. Like, it doesn't need to be this important. And, for me, and this may not be for everybody, but for me, that made it easier, and I was like, oh, I miss it. I miss being on stage. Like, I had kind of fallen out of love with acting, and then I missed it. And I went, oh, I really do want to do it. I do want to get back in. And so when I got back, um, uh, of course I had a boyfriend when I left, by the time I left England, and was like, no, and was so sad. So did the long distance thing and went to visit him in Japan that December. I came back in August. So I left in March and came back in August. And then that December I spent a month in Japan. But after that, so in 2014, I kind of launched back in, and I kind of reconnected with Katie Polensky, who I had originally rented that apartment in West Hollywood with. And I said, Katie, I'm having a hard time. I really miss, I've been away from the industry for a little bit, and I just want to get back involved in something. And she said, well, I'm doing a reading with this theater company called Courage Theater Company. You want to come see it? And I went and I cried because they did a reading of this play called The Yellow Boat. And then a couple months later, I auditioned for it because they were producing it. And then I was in that production of The Yellow Boat with Courage Theater Company, and that like reinvigorated my like spirit in terms of acting. And then I didn't leave Courage after that. I just kept hanging out with people from Courage Theater, and then reconnected with old Chapman buddies, and finally, moved back up to LA in 2014. And just started going at it again. Just started, but with like a new perspective, right? Because I was like, I'm just gonna live, and I'm gonna enjoy things, and I'm gonna feed my creative soul, and I'm gonna be kind to myself about all of the business stuff. I'm not gonna freak out about it. Um, I'm just gonna keep putting one foot in front of the other, and just keep moving, and just keep being authentic and meeting people, and just, nobody has the roadmap. You make your own, I think. And yeah, and after that, so I was living in Valley Village, so not far from here in North Hollywood. And at the end of 2014, I met my now husband. Um, and we started dating in 2015, and he was doing voiceover and had already become pretty successful in the voiceover world. And, a few months into that, I was like, hey, and I had an agent. I got an agent in 2015 who didn't do a lot for me, but he really believed in me, and that was really lovely. I finally met an agent that was like, hey, you're really good. He saw me. I went to an agent showcase, and I did a monologue. Um, and he went, holy shit, you're really good. And I went, yay, thanks. You
Well,
do
just that does so
exist.
much, right?
Yeah.
surrounding yourself with friends, with
Hmm.
a husband, with people in the industry that are so encouraging, that really believe in you.
Yeah, they exist, man. You just got to find them because there are so many that don't want that aren't like that. But you know.
But they're not again putting that pressure on you to
Hmm.
keep producing, to keep
Right. Right.
tirelessly working with the industry to the detriment of your sanity.
Right. No, totally.
It seemed like you put that pressure on yourself initially,
Oh yeah.
um,
Oh, I've
at
always
Chapman
done that
and
though.
coming from Chapman. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Always. I'm my own worst critic. I think a lot of us are, but I most of my negative most of my negative talk, it's negative self-talk, right? Because it's always, am I good enough? Am I enough at the end of the day? Like, is what I do enough to get me,
Well, we're living
whatever.
in a society that's always asking us that question.
Yeah.
Do you think
It's
you're good enough?
right.
You didn't earn money doing this project, or
Right.
there's all these quantifiable things in our society
Yeah.
that
How do we define
we're
success?
supposed to measure ourselves. Exactly. And that's a
Yeah.
big part of the Hollywood Actor Podcast. How are we actually redefining success in this age, because it's all over the place. I mean, we see people that win Oscars and Emmys, and then they're doing a non-union TV series on Facebook or YouTube Red, or it's just a million different things.
Well, the amount of content that's out there now is it has really changed the game with the streaming networks and stuff like that. If we're talking specifically about film and television, I think the idea of being like, not that this is what we're trying to do as actors, I mean, some people are, but the idea of like being a movie star is so much less possible now because there's so many more people and there's just so much more. There's just so much to watch now. Um, I think networks and streaming platforms and all of that. Everybody's just competing for eyeballs, right? Because you can't watch everything. So I think it's hard. It's even more difficult to become, if we're defining success by being like known. I suppose it's so much harder to do that now. I think. Um,
Yeah,
and
the networks are
yeah.
having problems. The major studios are having problems
Oh
trying
yeah.
to pierce through the noise. Even
Sure.
with A-list celebrities, A-list directors,
Yeah. Yeah.
but being healthy along the way and trying to do what you want to do.
Hmm.
Like you were saying, you were creating that show about your experience with medieval times.
Yeah. That happened. That was an idea that came when I was working there. I was like, oh, I had watched Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip and a show called Slings and Arrows. I don't know if you've seen it, but Canadian show. Yeah, love Slings and Arrows. Oh God, love it. And
About that theater festival up there.
yeah, about the Stratford Theater Festival. Well, that's not what they call it in the show, but that's what it's based on. Um, and I watched those shows, and workplace comedies are a thing, and obviously, uh, and but I thought to myself, I was like, I could probably come up, and I do not tout myself as a screenwriter. It's not ever been a passion of mine, but I was like, I think it could be a really funny show to do, so, like a workplace comedy based around a place like medieval times. I was like, I have so many funny stories and people and characters that I could use to, you know, tell uh, a bunch of different stories. And it's evolved over the years, um, but yeah, about 2 years ago, I would say I really started developing it and have some different people involved, and um, we're pretty close to having some funding to do a first season. Um, so we're going pretty independent with it, but we also have some connections for distribution, and that's a whole nother that's a whole nother subject, is learning how to produce film, which I know you're familiar with, but because it's a lot of people are trying to do it, and there's no hard and fast way to do it. You just you know um,
There's no hard
Right.
and fast way to do anything. It
No,
doesn't seem.
that's true. That's true. But yeah, I've really embraced the idea of developing my own series because I'm like, well, if I'm not getting the opportunities that I want in this industry, then I need to create my own. And I think that's what a lot of people are
100%.
adopting. Um, and
And even people
and
that
doing
are being
voiceover.
offered
Yeah,
opportunities, they're still trying to tell the stories they want to tell.
sure. I think it's so important. I think it gives, you know, even if you've just got an iPhone and you do, a series in your car. I had a friend that's actually a total truth. There's one of my friends did a series that took place entirely in her car, and it was so riveting. It was riveting. She wrote an
Yeah.
awesome web series that just took place in the car, and I was like, oh my god! And she did it. No money. She just did it, and it was brilliant. And I was like, yeah, see, you don't need anything, but she took control, of her artistic experience. And I think it's so important in an industry where there's so much rejection to be able to give yourself the yes, um, is rad. And it gives, I think it gives actors, something to focus on, so that we're not just waiting for the phone to ring, or we're not getting, totally psycho about one audition, and not, it, we can pour that we can pour our energy into something that's ours. I think when you start creating for yourself. um
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Because I think there's something different from what you were describing at medieval times. You were working with a lot of young kids. They're just having a fun time, right? They're not trying to make a career in the performing arts. It's just a job. And some of the musicians that you're meeting, I've had that experience too, where a musical instrument is outside of your body. You get to pick it up and put it down. You don't have to identify yourself, and your level of success isn't intrinsic in your body. And there's something about that when we are rejected, no matter how personal we seem to take it, or if we are apparently distancing ourselves from all of that, it's still, that lack of control is still hurting us. And if we can take that back in any way, find our way to create whatever we can create, I think that is vital.
yeah, absolutely.
But you were finding that with friendships too, right? And that led to projects like Fire and Ice. Was that like a
Yeah,
was that a
yeah,
pretty
that
good
was
turning
a
point in your career as well? Kind of plugging into
yeah,
the industry
that
here a
was
little bit?
when I met my friend. I started working with JH Productions with my friend Josh Hodgins, who's also he's going to show run my series, and um, the one that we're the medieval times one. The Fire and Ice was his show, and we had met through friends, and he's been in the indie film world for a really long time, um, and Fire and Ice, that turned into kind of a pilot presentation that is still being used, because that show's also going to be funded pretty soon, which is exciting. There's a lot of different projects that are happening with JH Productions, but and yeah, I would say it was because Josh has become a mentor to me, as a producer, and yeah, so going to do Fire and Ice was like the first project that I got to work on with him, and it was really fun and super fun comedy, um, and and it kind of like it we developed a friendship, and after that, and started developing a ton of projects. Then a little while later, maybe a year and a half, well, last year, so yeah, at the end of 2017, we did a film, a horror film called One Remains, and that should be coming out this spring. And I started learning to script supervise, so I acted in it a little bit, and then I also script supervised the film, um, because I wanted to learn. I think now that I'm stepping into a producer role as well, I think, um, the best producers have worked in all of the different departments, or at least have spent time in all of the different departments on a set. And I asked Josh if there was a way that I could help on set on the crew, and he said, "Well, I don't have a scripty. You want to learn how to scripty?" And I was like, "Yeah." So so I started learning how to do that and got to sit next to him while he would direct, and that's invaluable because I, started watching him direct and paying attention to a lot of different things that I never did as an actor on set, and I think it has already made me a better producer because, if you're going to go in and negotiate on behalf of the crew, it would behoove you to know what they need and how to make their job easier. Right. So there's been that.
But still, you care about being hands-on and
Yes. Yes.
observing the whole machine.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
I think you have, I mean, no, you don't have to, you can do it however you want. I just feel like if I'm going to have a team of people, if I want to produce, which now I'm, because it's my show, I'm stepping into a producer role as well as I'll act in it too. But, I think if I'm going to get a team of people to trust me, I need to be in the trenches with them. I don't know how else to build trust, other than to say, hey, I'm not better than you. We're equal, and I'm willing to help do your job or to learn your job because I want to know how to make your experience great. Yeah, I think it's just really important. So yeah, the past 2 years have been an education. The beginnings of my education in filmmaking, really in filmmaking as apart from acting, and the whole the development, the how to finding money, creating relationships, really learning what producing is. I think it's a hard thing to define for a lot of people. Even people that do it, they're like, I don't really know what I do. Just
But
make
you're always
things
asking.
happen.
You're always finding these different opportunities to get more and more specific as to what you actually want to do, how you can push the machine forward, and now you're inventing your own machines.
Yeah. But again, we've only done the pilot, and it's been used as a pilot presentation, mostly for securing investors. It will be a full blown production, and it will be hilarious. But after meeting my husband, who was doing voiceover, I was like, I think I might be good at this. And
That was
so,
your first foray into voiceover?
what do
Was
you mean?
meeting your husband
Yeah, yeah,
and being interested
yeah,
okay.
yeah. And I said, do you think I
Because
could
he's a
audition
professional
for this?
voiceover artist, isn't he? He's
Yeah.
always performing. That's incredible.
Yes, that's what he does. That is how that is how he earns a living. Solely. He has no other job, which is very rare. Um, well, I won't say that. He has actually started picking up some script adaptation work, but it's within the same
Hmm.
industry, obviously.
Yeah.
Script adapting for a lot of,
Such a tight-knit community. It's like its own
yeah,
little universe, voiceover.
it is. It's a very, very interesting universe.
But
One that
you gravitated towards it.
well, yeah, I just thought it seemed fun. Um, I feel like I use more of my honestly my theater training, um, because voice work takes uh, a lot of that skill set. That vocal training. Maybe not for everything, but um, for a lot of characters anyway. A lot of characters that I play, I play a lot of. I have a bassier voice, so I definitely get pinned for fantasy type warrior people and soldiers and moms. I play a lot of moms, and like badass chicks. That's what I do a lot of. Um,
Death metal singing foxes?
I didn't do the death metal singing. That's Jameson Boas. But no, in Aggretsuko I played a very snarky little fennec fox named Fenneco, and she's very bassy, but she's deadpan. She's kind of like Aubrey Plaza in Parks and Rec. That's what if I was going to give her an on camera persona, um, very much like that. And yeah, that I did a Gretzko about, I don't know, 2 years into starting to pursue voiceover. But um, yeah,
That was produced through Netflix, right?
yep, that sure was. That at Netflix and obviously Sanrio, the makers of Hello Kitty, came up with this ridiculous anime about these little animal characters that live in Japan and work in an office, and it's specifically about Retsuko, the red panda, who hates her job and her boss, but is like very polite and sweet at work. But then to vent her rage, her inside rage, goes to a karaoke bar by herself, or not a bar, but like a karaoke room like they have in Japan by herself and screams death metal. Um, and I play her like snarky little best friend at the office, and it's pretty cute. It's definitely one of my faves that I've worked on, just because it's so funny. And I love our director. Patrick Seitz is a great voice actor and has been in a ton of stuff, but is also a director. And he's just fun and smart and funny, and you know makes it
Yeah.
makes it a great experience. But yeah,
You said when that hit Netflix, that overnight you were getting a lot of people tweeting at you, a lot of people that were really excited about your performance.
yeah, weird, so weird. I was like, what? I'm not anybody. What are you doing? Um,
And
uh,
more encouraging voices, right?
yeah, a lot of people were very excited about it, and I was like, "What is happening in my world? There are people I don't know who are sending me things." Oh, it was really sweet. I felt so strange, my Kyle, my husband, has been getting that for a long time. He's played a lot of leads in particularly anime series and a few video games, and so he's had his kind of big breakout, for a while, and so he has a lot of fans, and it's weird, and I try to tell them I don't understand why they like him so much, but um but when it kind of started, when a very small amount of it started happening to me, I was like, what? This is so weird. This is I don't know how to take this. I'm very flattered, um but yeah, I mean, it was encouraging, though. It was nice to have people be like, "Oh my God, I loved you. Like, that was great." And I was like, "Oh, shoot. I did something people like. That's really cool." Like, who knew? Who knew I could do that?
We all find ourselves in drama school, if we do even gravitate towards the arts and studying them. And sometimes we're just falling into project after project, and it's whatever that's really keeping you engaged, that's allowing you to control that journey too, that I'm fascinated with. And it can be those claps in the audience, it can be those tweets of encouragement, um but also I do think that it's that community, those friendships that you've made, like with Katie, with Jer, and now with Kyle, your husband. I mean, it's nice waking up to that
Oh yeah,
encouragement, right?
totally. Oh yeah, Jer too. Sorry, you just said that name, and she's been so encouraging. She and I mean the entire Courage Theater Company family, honestly. Yeah, Jerry's the artistic director, and I'm now an associate artistic director for that. So I work with Jerry a lot to help run Courage, and um, mostly from the artistic side. Nikki Monet does all of the business stuff. She's the businessy person behind everything. But anyway, um, no, I that finding that I would say finding courage, the Courage Theater community. I mean, that introduced me to my husband, because he knew uh, T.J. Marchbank, who was a company member at the time, and and he had come to a holiday party being thrown by one of Courage Theater Company's members, and I was there. Like, so I feel like if there was a really, really big turning point in my life, it was being introduced to that company, because it led me to a lot of people. But yeah, Katie Polensky though, man, she's still a dear friend, but yeah, I have her to thank for a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
bringing you into the fold, into a tribe.
yeah.
And it's hard to find those. And Courage Theater Company, it's still a little bit marauding, right? Like, they are based at the Lincolnshire Arts Center. Are they a resident
Um,
theater company?
no, 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 no. That's still the road space. No, we're still very much nomadic. We
But
love
still,
the
whenever there's a
Lincoln
new
Arts.
project, a new
Yeah.
reading, everybody's there to support.
Yeah.
There's something about that.
hmm It it gives a sense of consistency and stability in a life in an industry that's really not consistent or stable. So to have that is really lovely. Um,
Yeah.
I
But it's
feel
not
like
just an
I can
email
always come back.
newsletter.
No.
It's not just there's something about, like, that sense of, like, a sacred space. And that's 100% what I gravitate towards with regards to theater training and just the stage, the theater. It's still a sacred space where films can take over a curbside for a couple hours, shoot something, and yeah, that's been shot and it's forever on, you know, film if you're lucky, or just digitally
Or just
preserved.
digital.
But
Right.
that curb was designed to be a curb,
Yeah.
and for a couple hours it wasn't, and then for the rest of its life it is a curb again. It's just a public space, as most film spaces are. I think that's why I continue to gravitate towards theater, because of that, the specialness of that, and the specialness of those types of people.
Yeah. Totally. I will probably always think of the theater as, my first my well, my a real passion, because of I think it's that, like, audience um energy. Having that exchange with an audience is really, really cool, and I don't think there's anything like live performing. I don't think film I don't think you get that same thing, you know. Um and and I think in theater you also have a lot more control over your performance, whereas in film it's so collaborative, you know. And yeah, there's maybe I'm just a control freak, but I kind of like having that power, on stage, being able to be like, no, this is mine. I'm doing this, like, even though, like, a director helped me get there, but you know what I mean? Like, it's still like this, I'm leaving my performance, my mark here. Um, and so I
Yeah,
think
it's
I think
still
it will always
a
make me come
moment that you're
back to it.
controlling.
Yeah.
Yeah, control freak, but controlling, it doesn't have to be pejorative.
That's true.
You're
You're
just
right.
you're just trying to um, address something with the
Sure.
training experience you have,
Right.
and saying, this is, you've hired me to do this. This is
Right.
how I've put this together.
Right. Right.
And yeah, you're listening to your scene partner, you're listening to your director.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of voices, but ultimately you're controlling that experience for an
Mm-hmm.
audience that night.
Yeah. It's pretty neat. I like it. I'm like, ooh,
It's a
should go do
positive
a play.
experience. And
Yeah.
are you gonna keep the theater in your life
Oh,
as a
yeah.
performer?
Yeah, of course. I don't plan on, you know, no, wherever my work takes me, if I get really involved in my series and films and stuff like that, I'll always be involved, especially in Courage. I don't think I'll ever leave Courage. And I certainly don't think I'll ever fully leave the theater, even if my focus work wise has changed to producing my own stuff and doing voiceover. I think there's always room. Um, and I'll certainly never, even if I'm not acting in the theater, I'll always support it, and I'll always do what I can to bring, to help produce it, really, because I think it's really important. And yeah, no, I don't think I'll ever. I don't know that I could. I don't think. Yeah, no. I tried. Hey, I tried when I went to Europe. It didn't work out. Oh well. I guess I'm stuck. I guess this is what I'm doing.
You found a supportive community,
I did.
that reflected back at you what you were trying to build in yourself,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think. At least
Like-minded
that's,
people.
yeah, yeah, right. And on a regular basis, because even when I've had the best experiences, um, I'm sure this is similar to you, having the best experiences doing, um, a recorded project. That's it. It's done, and it's hard to continue that relationship with those people.
Yeah. Yeah. Even doing a theater, even doing a play though, like I think we I remember a professor at Chapman said this, we develop our little families for the time that we're doing the play, and then all of a sudden it's over and that family dissipates and we go join a new one when we do the next play. And there's something beautiful and awesome and also sad about all of that.
We
So
have
I
time to
think,
develop
yeah,
them when we do a play. We have
right,
we have weeks of rehearsal. We have weeks of a performance, and that's what
sure,
I'm trying to pursue in my own career, is having just basically more time to work on material with an ensemble, and whether that is on stage
right,
or it is in a feature film.
sure,
I'd like to pursue any medium that would allow me that just sheer time to
yeah.
spend with people.
Oh, it's so rare. But yes,
Mm,
that's such a cool goal, honestly, Jamie. Like, because there's just so much going on, and so things go so quickly. I think. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, if
How
you
do you
got
plug in personally, like on a weekly basis? I know you keep in touch with well, more than keep in touch with the Courage Theater Company. You're an associate artistic director of the Courage Theater Company, so you're very much invested.
yeah, I connect with them on a weekly basis at least. Um, if we're heavy into production, then it's daily. Um, so so yeah, I plug in there. Um,
But outside of
ah,
Courage, into the film industry, like with your own
oof,
agent, manager, mixers, festivals, how do you really suss
ah.
out the scene?
Oh gosh, I don't. I'm terrible. I don't. What do I do?
Because now
Well,
you're
I
more
mean,
experienced.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you know
a
where
little
to
bit.
look. You know where to
Sure,
go.
a little bit,
And
a little bit. I'm still discovering. I
that's
think
not,
we're always discovering, but um,
yeah.
I mean,
You know who
at,
you well, what I really want to say is,
yeah,
who you are and what you
sure,
bring to the table, what you can
yeah,
offer
yeah,
particular projects or producers or writers or any
yes,
creative. How do you meet
correct.
those creatives on a weekly basis?
Oh God, through other creatives. Honestly, I go to the parties if I can. If there's stuff happening, I'm serious. I don't really
Yeah.
do a lot of I don't do a lot of networking mixers anymore. I mean, for voiceover, I've been looking into going to more like, if we're talking like more like casting director workshop type things, because that's helpful. And through that, I have always met a lot of other actors and people that are doing stuff. Um, but right now, oh, working with the family of the my other family, my JH Productions family. I go to a lot of meetings with Josh Hodgins, and so I'm meeting people through him, and then through those people, and then like it kind of just spirals from there. I think at this moment in life, anyway. Um, and yeah, yeah. I mean, any I think it's just you just got to go and experiment, right? Like if I didn't have that, I suppose I would go plug in and maybe go to one of like women in films networking meetings or events. I think that might be cool. Like I think it's just kind of doing research and trying it out and seeing who you meet and you know um, being willing to just kind of get out there. I mean, I'm saying that and I'm like the worst. I'm such a hermit, but but
Through your different friendships and communities, you found those production companies, you found those theater
yeah,
companies, and then you
yes,
double down on those families.
right, exactly. That's kind of where I'm at this point. Is I found the people that I really want to be working with. Not that I'm not interested in meeting new people and working with a lot of different people, but like I think I found my homes and my families within this, within theater and within film, and I'm excited to build with them. So it's more rather than feeling like I'm going it alone anymore, I feel like I'm going at it with like a group of people. So that's kind of neat, honestly.
Yeah.
And rare.
I don't
So
think that can be understated.
yeah.
How important having those families, those groups, those people that are championing you, that are
hmm
encouraging you on a daily basis.
Yeah. Well, I think, when we look at the big, like, some of the big film families that we know about in maybe in the industry, there's, you think about, like, I don't know, the first one that came to mind is like Tim Burton. Tim Burton works with a lot of the same people, maybe Quentin Tarantino, they all start to develop these little families, right? Um, and I think it just goes to show you, like, it really is about creating that group of people that you want to work with, because I think it helps lift you up, and you get to grow together. And I don't know. Yeah, there's something about finding your like-minded people that you're like, it makes the tough part of the business a little easier because you're not alone, I think. But yeah.
See how full circle this talk has come?
I do.
This is
Well done, Jamie.
incredible.
Did you try for that?
It's incredible. No, it's of course.
I know.
I'm a professional.
I know.
Um, that I mean, that's the story of a life,
hmm
right?
Yeah.
That's the story of a life. I'm so glad that you were able to share a lot of that with us.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's really important. It's really important to share our successes
Uh,
and our loss.
yeah. There's a lot of
You
it.
know, people lose a lot of things.
Yeah.
People struggle to find themselves. They struggle to find those families.
Yeah. I think more so than anything, I just, I want to be somebody who can not be constantly trying to market myself as something on social media that I'm not. I don't need people to think that I'm working all the time. I don't really care. I don't need people to think that I'm doing some big successful thing all the time, because I'm not. And that doesn't mean I'm not successful. It just means that I don't want to be part of the bullshit. I don't want to be that. I don't want to project, and I don't, because I think it's so dishonest, and I don't like it. I would like to be real and share, my successes, but also like my failures, and also like, hey, it's not always glorious. It's not always sunshine and rainbows. I'm struggling. I'm still struggling. I think we all are. Um,
Yeah, but you're struggling together.
yes, absolutely, absolutely.
That's everything.
Yeah. Well, and helping people realize that that we they're not alone. I think as actors, especially with social media, you can scroll through and be like, oh, that person's on set, or oh, that person's doing that and they're doing that, and you can feel like, ugh, I'm not doing anything. And I just don't want to be that person that's throwing stuff up, that's, like, not saying I don't want to share my projects with people. It's not that. It's just I just, like, let's just cut the bullshit. Like, I think you know what I'm saying, and I think anybody who listens
I
would know what I'm
completely do,
saying.
and
So,
yeah. And when I first met you, you radiate authenticity.
hmm,
You you do,
thank you,
and it's
thank you.
extremely refreshing.
Oh, I'm glad.
And
Likewise,
yeah,
likewise. You do too. No, really, you
nice.
do. You're just you are very much. You were. I just knew immediately. I was like, this guy knows what's up. So,
I
thank
just
you.
struggle to formulate a lot of the big questions, into the little the little answers for myself on a daily or weekly basis. I think it's really important for us to plug in on that weekly basis. That's why that's my final question in in these episodes is really trying to figure out how people proceed in the not so distant future, because a lot of our lives are just so up in the air. We don't know sometimes what we're doing tomorrow. An audition can pop up the last minute. We have to cancel on a work shift, or a parallel career suffers, or relationship suffers because of something we have to do for our business. And so that balance of trying to be a successful Hollywood actor is something it's something that everybody's trying to find right now. And that's why talking to all sorts of different actors that are succeeding is so vital for everybody to see that there are so many different paths. There's different ways to balance your life. There's not one right way, but there's a lot of different healthy ways that we can be doing it. And I think you outlined an extremely healthy way that you did channel a lot of your frustrations, a lot of your discouragements, a lot of your feelings of not fitting into that thing that really got you interested in the first place. That sense of community, of reaching out, that you are now finding with these different families and a husband in the industry.
I'm glad. I'm glad. I hope it's helpful. I hope it gives somebody some peace of mind,
100%. Thank you so much, Katelyn, for talking with us. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome, Jamie. Anytime. Thank you for having me.